Good afternoon. This video will deal with the last video also by Bryan Denlinger dealing with the issue of Book of Ruth. And I just put a video up dealing with his video talking about 1 Corinthians 15. And these are videos people told me about. He said this, so I'm just going to go over them. Of course, now he's going to attack interracial marriage again. And he's going to go to the Book of Ruth. And so we'll look at what he has to say here. This is a little longer video, about 22 minutes. So this video I'm making here might be longer. But so let's see what he has to say here. Does the Book of Ruth teach that God is okay with interracial marriage? Now remember, 1 Corinthians 7, the only prohibition to marry is the issue of a spiritual one, unbelievers and believers. Nothing said about race. If God wanted to make an issue of race, he would have said something about race. And there are 3 Gentile women in the line of Jesus Christ in the book of Matthew. So let's keep that in mind. That's just Ruth. There's 2 other women involved in that line as well. Rahab was also in the line.
The comments a lot and things.
And she was a prostitute.
And I do speak against interracial marriage, not because I'm a racist. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate black people and whatever else. If I hated black people, I would say, you know, let's have people of different races marry into them and breed them out, and eventually there won't be any black people anymore. You know, standing against interracial marriage.
He just wants to be separated from black people. He wants to be separated from Oriental people. So he doesn't want to end the race, which he knows he couldn't. But the reality is, all the races are mixed with people. All the races, everybody's got different blood in them. So this idea that the Ham, Shem, and Japheth thing is a myth. They even know that. They even know that. Go to Kim in his book on the Ruckman Ruckus. He says that. He's talking about the interracial marriage issue. So all races are mixed. That's why this guy won't take a DNA test. He won't take a DNA test. He won't find out what he's mixed, what races are mixed in with him. So there's no pure race, no pure quote-unquote races anymore.
It doesn't mean that you hate other races or things like that. You keep them separate. It's kind of
You can't keep them separate. Not in the United States. See, that's why he wants to have a separate state. You can't keep them separate.
Interesting, because the first one that really said, let's bring everybody together, let's all be one, was Nimrod.
That's the issue of nationalism. Okay, well, race. Okay, and then but the idea was bringing actually issue of nationalism versus internationalism, not racial.
And God came down and confounded their languages and said, spread out. Oh, but there's only one race, the human race. Really? Chapter and verse on that one? The first one that said that was Nimrod. Interesting. But I had a lot of people, and they say, you know, Brother Bryan, you preach some really good sermons, and
Well, Acts 17 does say we're one blood. That's where you can get transfusions from individuals with the same blood type. It doesn't matter what race he is. We're the same blood. We're human. We're from Adam. So in fact, there is only one race, one human race. Okay? We all come from Adam. No,
I've been following you for a while, but, okay, Billy Goat Believers, but...
Oh, that's a new term, Billy Goat Believers. Is that in the Bible? Billy Goat Believers? I only say words that are in the King James Bible. Is it Billy Goat Believer in the King? Is that phrase in the King James Bible believer? Billy Goat Believers? Oh, I don't say anything except out of the King James Bible. You know, that word, Lordship, salvation, Trinity is not in the word of the King James Bible. So I can't, there's no such word, it's not such concept as Trinity. Billy Goat Believers?
You know, Billy Goat butts you, you know, you didn't get that.
Oh yeah, you're very clever.
But you shouldn't be wasting your time on interracial marriage. This is a controversial subject. It's not something that you should waste your time on. This is just wrong and blah, blah.
This is nonsense. It's not an issue. The fact is, there's only one prohibition. It's not race. It's spiritual.
Why would you even bring this subject up? 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 1. Moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under this cloud, and all passed through the sea, and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat, did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. But with many of them God was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Now these things were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. Verse 7. Neither be ye idolaters, as were some of them, as it is written, the people rose or sat down to eat and drink.
Saved people, by the way. Aaron was caught up in this. He almost got killed. Saved people. Not faith works. They were saved by faith. They are the Passover lamb. They are saved by faith.
And rose up to play. There's your idolatry.
Yeah, saved people.
Verse 8. This is the big one that got all people all upset and everything. Neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed, and fell in one day 23,000.
Yeah, stoned to death.
Why would he be talking about, they say it's spiritual fornication. It's idolatry, in other words, spiritual fornication. Notice.
No, they were engaged in physical fornication. Idolatry is spiritual fornication, but that was part of the religion. Spiritual fornication was involved physical fornication. So they did one because of the other.
That's not what it's talking about.
I mean, it was a cult, and back, all the ancient religions always had this tie-in with the spirit, with the physical fornication. They engaged in orgies, and that was part of the Corinth was involved in that. That's why the Corinthians had a hard time with fornication, getting out of the licentious lifestyles. The Greeks took this to a level where they worship sex, and of course the same thing with the the Old Testament, Moabites and things like that. So this is part of their worship, and of course they would include child sacrifice in this as well.
Text there, because he covers idolatry in the previous verse, and you look back at that. There, it's basically when Moses is up in the mountain, and he's up there, and he gets the 10 Commandments from God, and he comes back down, and they're naked, and they're worshiping this God.
Yeah, they're worshiping the two idols, and they're involved in physical fornication because of the spiritual fornication.
Golden calf and the whole thing.
I don't know if that has to do with the book of interracial. I mean, the issue of interracial marriage, though. What's he bring this up for?
Was there any fornication there? I have no idea. They were naked and dancing around.
And there was fornication going on. No question about it.
Partying and things.
That's what Egyptians did. That was their religion.
Well, you would think that there'd be probably some fornication. The Bible doesn't say. But the point is, that was idolatry. The next verse.
It's idolatry that resulted in physical fornication.
There, where you have them taking the Moabite women, and the one guy takes a Midianitish woman and things, and I posed.
He didn't marry her. That wasn't a marriage. He was just brazen to take her in his tent.
The question, and nobody really answered it, and that was, at least that I saw it, and I didn't read all the comments because I just it was getting kind of old and whatever. But the question comes up. This guy in Numbers chapter 25, he takes a Midianitish woman and he brings her before the congregation, before Moses, and he brings
her in sight of Moses. He didn't bring her before Moses in order to say, "This is my wife." They were in process of mourning the issue of the fornication. So while they're going through this mourning, he just brazenly walks in with this Midianite right in front of him. He didn't bring him in front of Moses and say, "Oh, Moses, I'm presenting this as my wife now." He just walked right in front of Moses and said, "What are you going to do about it?"
Takes her into his tent. Now that is a marriage.
That's not a marriage. It says anything about a marriage. The fact was that he had the chutzpah to do it. That's how brazen they were gotten in their sins. And that's what he's doing. Here they're involved in this problem, and people are mourning, and he just walks right in front of Moses. What are you going to do about it?
In the Old Testament. All right? That's not fornication. That is a marriage.
No, it's not fornication. It was fornication. Of course it's fornication. She was an unbeliever. She was an unbeliever. There was no marriage. There couldn't be a legitimate marriage because she's an unbeliever. And I'm assuming he was a believer. So there was no marriage. The issue wasn't her race. The issue was she was an unbeliever. Can't be a marriage if she's an unbeliever in the eyes of God. If you marry, as a Christian, if you marry an unbeliever, God doesn't consider that a marriage. Okay, I mean, that's the reality. Now, as I said, we go back to Corinthians. You said the idea that if you're in a marriage and one gets saved and the other one's still lost, you stay in that marriage. God regards it, he'll sanctify the marriage. But if you're a believer and you defy God and you marry an unbeliever, that marriage is not sanctified in God's eyes. You've done the one thing. Now, if you marry a believer from another race, that's a marriage. So, and that's why the same-sex stuff. That's not a marriage. Two men getting married, two women getting married. That's not a marriage. God doesn't look at it. That's a marriage because the state sanctifies it. It's not a marriage. A marriage is between, and today, it is a believing woman and a believing man, or an unbelieving woman and an unbelieving man. But you can't have a believing man and a believing woman in a marriage unless one has been saved in the marriage already. And then God says, okay. Now, if the other one leaves, that's how God looks at it. Says, if the unbeliever leaves, the believer is not under any obligation. That doesn't exist in a two believers marriage. You're definitely under the obligation to make make that marriage work.
That's what they did. Take him before the congregation.
No, he walked in front of the congregation. He didn't present it as a wife. He walked. Numbers 21. Moses would have could not grant and say this is a marriage because they were not allowed to marry. Is it 23? I guess Numbers 23. Huh? 26. 26. Okay. 25. Numbers 25. And behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a Midianitish woman in the sight of Moses and in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping before the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. So all he did was bring them. He brought the woman out in front of them. That's all. In the sight of Moses and in the sight of all the congregation of the children. There was no marriage granted because he brought them out in the sight. They wasn't involved in a marriage relationship. He just did it brazenly. That's why Phineas was so roused. Because of the brazen act of this guy.
He actually takes her before Moses.
He says in the sight of Moses and the congregation. They just saw him do it. That's just some brazenness. There's no marriage there.
Excuse me. And then takes her into his tent.
Yeah, that's why Phineas has the right to go and kill him. it was an immoral act.
And Phineas goes in there and he kills them both.
Yeah. So if that had been real marriage, Phineas would be in trouble. But the fact was, it was an act of fornication and idolatry involved because the Midianitish woman was an abomination. She was bringing her gods with her.
Well, the Spirit just runs them through. Why? Was it fornication? You see?
It wasn't because she was a different race. See how he double talks? If being a race was an issue, then it couldn't be a legitimate marriage. So how is it considered a legitimate marriage if she's a Midianite? Why would that be considered a legitimate marriage? The whole, according to him, is saying, well, the Jews wouldn't have any relationship with this based on racial issue. How would they grant it being a legitimate marriage? They wouldn't. It wasn't a legitimate marriage. For spiritual issues, she was an unbeliever.
It's called fornication.
Yeah, it is, because it wasn't a legitimate marriage.
I keep getting this thing thrown at me with, the book of Ruth. So let's go back to the book of Ruth. We're going to go through the book of Ruth. Here, we're going to see what actually is happening here. If you want to use the book of Ruth to promote interracial marriage, you've got some real problems there. some things that people just kind of conveniently overlook. But again, I don't.
The issue in Ruth is Ruth accepted the God of Israel. That's it. That's it.
This whole thing of this whole interracial marriage thing, it's controversial, and the things that are written back in the Old Testament, you don't just say, I'm a dispensational Christian today, and I'm just going to throw out the whole Old Testament, and I'll throw out the Gospels and whatever. The whole Bible is there for, doctrine.
Unless something is different. That's why I don't have a Sabbath. Paul doesn't mention the Sabbath. So if even if racial issue was an issue in the Old Testament, Paul would have to repeat it in the New Testament and say this is still an issue. Paul doesn't repeat it. It was never an issue in the Old Testament, but Paul doesn't say anything in the New Testament. So you want to say, oh, it's in the Old Testament. Well, the reason we don't do things in the Old Testament, and unless they repeat it in the New Testament, say, okay, this is what Paul recommends, states the idea of certain things you're supposed to avoid, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, those are things from the Old Testament, but it doesn't mention the Sabbath. That's why these people want to go back to the Sabbath. Well, Paul never says don't keep the Sabbath. Paul doesn't say keep the Sabbath. If he wanted to be kept, he would have mentioned it. If he wanted to make an issue of race, he would have mentioned it in the New Testament. He doesn't, because it was never an issue.
Reproof, correction, instruction, and righteousness. That's written to a Christian for purposes of the Scriptures. And Paul plainly says about the things that are written aforetime are written for our learning. We're supposed to go back and read things.
Yeah, for our examples. And to be able to divide which things are still for us and some things which are never for us. We don't go back to Levitical offerings. Why? Paul says, it doesn't say use Levitical offerings. So we're able to understand things in the Old Testament and use examples and apply things and wisdom to our lives. And we get illustrations from the Old Testament, but we don't get our walk from the Old Testament. And unless there's something in that Paul explicitly says, it says, okay, this is still valid for us today. Okay, if he doesn't say that, then we say that's Old Testament. And he never says issue of race. He had a chance to say issue of race. He never says issue of race.
The Old Testament. But, people say Ruth was a Moabite, Boaz was a Jew. It was an interracial marriage. Obviously, God is for it, so we can do it today. One other point I want to make here before we get into the actual book of Ruth and see what really happened there. One other point I'm going to make is the fact that the Bible, if you can sum up what is the Bible, what is this book all about? The depravity of man and the perfection of Jesus Christ. If I was to sum up what the Bible's about. And so people go back through and they'll say, well, see, Moses married this woman here, and Boaz, he married this Moabite woman here, Ruth, and God wrote a whole book about it. And so, therefore, because other people did it, it's okay for us to do today. No.
The issue is did God bless it? It's okay for us to do it today. Idiotic guy, this guy, unbelievable. Fact is, you have 3 Gentile women in the Lord's genealogy. They were believers. That's how they got in the genealogy. But they're Gentiles, they're not Jews. When Moses marries the Ethiopian woman, he's never condemned for that. See, he wants to assume because he decides something's a sin, that God must look at it as a sin. The only one got in trouble for that issue was Aaron and Miriam. They got in trouble for criticizing the marriage. not for the issue of Moses never got in trouble for it. When Moses got in trouble, we were told that Moses got in trouble. When Moses did something wrong, we were told about it. God didn't hide anything, but when Moses fouled up somewhere, we were told that. If Moses had fouled up on the Ethiopian marriage issue, we would have been told that. Said, well, Moses, why are you marrying this Ethiopian woman? She's not your same race. I ain't told that. In the 12 tribes, they had a very strict rule of marrying on the issue of inheritance. You couldn't even marry outside your own tribe because they didn't want to mar the inheritance. So that became an issue of the 12 tribes. That became an issue. But that's an issue because of inheritance.
The Bible has many instances of people failing God.
And God tells us that. So he has to look for it. God doesn't say but both the marriage of both gets blessed, not cursed.
And the Lord writes it down. He records it.
Yeah, when it's a failure. And he lets us know it's a failure. The David with Bathsheba, he lets us very clearly what that was a failure. That was illegitimate.
But then when you actually see God judging certain things and giving them commands, don't go over there and take their daughters to be your wives and think. He
Because they're unbelievers.
does that, and then they ignore that, and they say, well, so-and-so did it. And
we don't ignore that. See what a liar is? We never ignore that. We understand why they did it. The exceptions are showing us what the exceptions issue was. You had to be a believer. You had to become saved to become part of the Jewish commonwealth. If you stayed out of that commonwealth, you were worshiping idols. The issue was not race, the issue was spiritual.
he got away with it, so it must be okay with God. It's a real problem.
How do you get away with something? Unless it's okay with God. How do you get away with it? God doesn't let you get away with anything. See, this is idea
Let's
somehow.
look at what the book of Ruth actually teaches.
His idea is somehow they got away with it, and it's okay with God. Well, if they got away with it, it must have been okay with God. You don't get away with anything. Oh, they did it. They got away with it. Like God somehow just, I'm afraid about that. If it was wrong, God would have dealt with them.
Ruth chapter 1, we're going to read down to chapter 1, verses 1 through 7. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. Why not stay there in Israel like the rest of the Jews did? Why run away?
Now he's going to talk about how Naomi was out of geographical will of God, and that they did the wrong thing, and she gets cursed. She gets cursed. No question about it. Her husband ended up dying. Her 2 sons ended up dying. She got out of the will of God. No question about that. But God will use man's failures to still accomplish his plan. That's what he does. He uses that to get Ruth for Boaz.
Can't God provide? Verse 2. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. Why did he die? Because he was right with God? Or just natural causes, I assume, right? We'll see here.
What's that to do with racial? See, he makes a big deal about this. And he does book books before this, and not the whole book. But we granted Naomi was out of fellowship. But that's not an issue. They shouldn't have left Israel during the famine.
Just a little bit what Naomi says. Not my opinion, not my interpretation. What Naomi says. Verse 4. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. Notice that they did it after their dad died. Interesting. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died also, both of them. And the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. I guess they died of natural causes too, right? We'll see. Verse 6. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country.
This guy must do nothing but beat dead horses. I mean, this guy is his worst straw man arguments. What does that have to do with the issue of Ruth being a blessing? God took a blessing out of a cursing. That's what he does. Out of all this disaster that goes on there, Naomi gets Ruth. And people say Ruth is better than 7 sons. She got a daughter. She lost her sons, but she got a daughter. And Ruth, in 1:16, there says she accepted Naomi's gods. That's the only issue, people. No one's questioning the fact that they were out of fellowship.
Country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread. She didn't even go back until she heard that the famine's over. Couldn't trust the Lord. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. could read the whole book. We're not going to go through the whole thing, but
Well, of course not, because he hasn't made any point. You don't have to go through the whole book. You go through the first chapter. We'll see how far he goes.
of course they talk about, Orpah goes back to her people. Ruth says, "No, I'm going to stick with you, Naomi."
And what? Your God will be my God. Your God will be my God. 116. See how he avoids that? That is a crucial verse. 116. And Ruth said, "Entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou goest, lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God." That is the key verse for Ruth. See, Orpah, whatever her name is, Orpah, went back to her own gods. Both these marriages were illegitimate. When you look at it, I mean, basically, they're both the women are unbelievers. So it's probably why the sons were killed. Basically, they were married unbelievers. But Ruth became a believer. She was now a believer. That is the issue. Then she had a right to marry Boaz.
And I'm not at all saying that Ruth was a bad woman in this study. Not at all.
She's a saved woman. Don't read 116.
She was a good woman, all right? But the situation that arose out of that sin there, of them going to Moab and the two sons taking Moabite wives, the problem that arose from it, we're going to see it in this book here. It's about inheritance. All right? I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Well, that's the issue why Boaz ends up with Ruth, because the issue of inheritance. Okay, that was the problem that was caused when Naomi goes back, and then there's the kinsman redeemer issue, which is an issue of salvation also. That Jesus Christ had to become a man. God became flesh as a kinsman redeemer. He had to be man in order to redeem mankind. And that's the issue of, you have to have the issue of the kinsman redeemer issue.
Ruth chapter 1, verse 19 through 22.
But God used that problem. The issue is not the problem of inheritance. The issue is, did Boaz have a right to marry Ruth? That's the only issue. Was it a legitimate marriage? And men, remember, there's two other women involved in the genealogy of Jesus Christ, not just Ruth.
So they two went until they came to Bethlehem.
So you won't read 116. That's the issue. Ruth became a Jew.
And it came to pass, when they were come to Bethlehem, that all the city was moved about them, and they said, "Is this Naomi?" Didn't even recognize her anymore. And she said unto them, "Call me not Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me."
So, no question about it. Up to that point, that God had dealt with them bitterly. They were out of fellowship. She lost everything. She's actually a type of a believer who can get out of fellowship. Still saved. Naomi is still a saved woman, but she lost everything. She lost the husband. She lost the two, everything she had over the new land. She's coming back now. She's trying to get something. She has nothing because she was out of the will of God, the geographical will of God. But God still used her, still blessed her with Ruth. That's God's mercy.
I went out full, and the Lord hath brought me home again empty.
A believer out of fellowship. That's what will happen to you. When you out of fellowship with God, you stay out of fellowship long enough and resist God, they resist you coming back. That's exactly what's going to happen to you. And yet she was still saved. Remember these faith works people? Oh, they have to do their works. Nobody was doing any works. She was getting blasted, but she's still saved. She's still saved. She lost everything, but she's still saved. She wasn't giving any testimony. You want to talk about the Lordship salvation issue? What testimony was Naomi giving about her faith? None. And God dealt with her accordingly. So according to these guys, Naomi shouldn't even be saved because she wasn't giving any testimony of her salvation.
Why then call ye me Naomi, seeing the Lord hath testified against me?
Yeah. A saved person who God dealt with. Killed three other people in her family. Sent to death. And yet these faith works people say, oh, Naomi couldn't be saved. Naomi's not giving any testimony about salvation. Where's the testimony? There's no testimony. She's coming back a wreck. But God still gives her a little blessing. God still blesses her and still changes that cursing into a blessing by putting Ruth to the side and giving her a daughter.
The Almighty hath afflicted me.
Yeah, saved person getting afflicted. Not a lost person. Remember that. When you see these clowns talk about Lordship salvation, the faith works system, the Old Testament, where's Naomi's works? Where's Naomi's works, people? Oh, they have to have a faith works system or they're lost. Naomi wasn't lost. She was getting hammered. But she was saved.
She's not saying, oh, God allowed me to go through some rough stuff. She's saying God was against me.
Because she was against God. That's a carnal believer. You go against God, God goes against you. But you're still saved. And Naomi was still a saved woman coming back with Ruth. And Ruth was the blessing that God gave her.
Look at that. Lord hath testified against me. Why?
She was out of fellowship.
Because she left the land where she was supposed to stay.
Yeah, she was out of fellowship.
She left.
Okay. What's that have to do with anything? Remember, it's about interracial marriage. What does that do with anything? You know, Naomi is a carnal believer. And basically what happens is that, God deals with her as a carnal believer. And eventually gets her to come back. Like Jonah. Jonah refuses to preach to the Ninevites. And what does God do? Okay, he throws him in and he pairs a whale for him and takes him. Then okay, I'll change my mind, God. I'll stop preaching.
There. God set up boundaries according to the number of the children of Israel in Deuteronomy chapter 32. And she left. Her husband gets killed. Go home.
She was out of fellowship. Who doubts that?
Home to Israel. It's a little sign from the Lord there. No, let's just stay here and I'll have my two sons marry daughters or women from Moab. Against what the Bible says to do. And what's God do?
Tell her fellowship. The issue wasn't the fact he married the women. The issue was that those women were unbelievers at the time.
Boom, kills both sons.
Out of fellowship. And yet Naomi was still saved. Isn't that amazing? No one ever says about Naomi being lost. Naomi was not giving any testimony about salvation. Naomi's not involved in a faith works system. Like these liars would tell you. They have to be engaged in the Old Testament. Naomi wasn't doing any works. But God brought her back to Israel. That's what sometimes a carnal believer has to happen. Some people, God just kills. They just won't do it. Eventually, God put Naomi in a position. Says, you're going to go back. Go back. But I'm going to give you someone to go back with.
Oh, I'm going to stay here a little bit longer till I hear the famine's over. Then she goes back. The Lord's against her for what she did.
She's out of fellowship.
Is God for interracial marriage?
What does that do with interracial marriage? He's about the boundaries of the nation. He didn't do it racially. Now, the Jews had a very unique thing because but they had Gentiles among them. They had Gentiles among them, people. He was acting like the Jews are just pure. That's why he had Rahab was in that mix, in the genealogy of Jesus Christ.
See, it's so funny because people will look at
It's so funny.
This and they'll say, well, Ruth married Boaz. Well, what about Ruth marrying Mahlon there?
Yeah, she was out of fellowship. She was an unbeliever. What does that do with anything? I don't know the race.
And Chilion marrying Orpah.
Unbelievers. Man-believers.
God killed them. And she says the Lord is
Not because of the race, but because of the unbelief.
against me.
The men were unbelievers. The blame of believers. They were out of the geographical will of God. And so God kills them. So
God's against the interracial marriage of...
Where does it say one word about race? It What about race? It talks about being national boundaries and the fact that they're unbelievers. Nothing to do about national. If they were both believers, those sons would probably would not have been killed. But the issue was, is they married unbelieving women, which involve their different gods. When a woman, when you marry, just like Solomon happened, when you bring, the woman would always bring her gods with her, and that's part of their culture. And so, if you're an unbelieving woman, we saw that in Genesis with the Rachel, with the hiding the idols from the father, looking for them with Abraham, with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So that's what you happen in these situations.
Of Mahlon and Ruth, but he somehow changes his mind with Boaz and Ruth.
Yeah, he did, because Ruth was a believer. Because Ruth was a believer. That was the issue.
Mahlon and Ruth, wrong. Boaz and Ruth, correct.
Because of believers. Ruth is a believer. Ruth 1:16.
And good. Oh, but maybe I guess they'll come out and they'll say that, well, Naomi, the Lord was against her for another reason. It wasn't because of the interracial marriage of her son.
No, it was because they were involved with the unbelievers. God was told Israel constantly to go back to Egypt. You trust in God. You trust in God of Israel. You stay with the God of Israel. But the issue never was about grace. The issue was their spiritual issues. They were going into a corrupt, just like Lot went to Sodom. They were going into a corrupt environment. And they married, the two sons married two unbelieving women.
Verse 22, so Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned.
You notice we'll read 16.
Out of the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley harvest. Why does it call her a Moabitess, by the way, if there's just one race, it's the human race? Why? Why make a distinction?
Because she was, and she changed from worshiping her false gods to the true God. That's why.
You never know. Ruth chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz.
By the way, the Moabites were half Jewish. They come from a line of Lot. Lot was also involved, so they always point out they come from that incest from Lot engaged with his daughters. So they had at least half Shemite, when you use Shemite, instead of Jewish, Shemite blood in them. They were half Shemite.
And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, Let me now go to the field, and glean ears of corn after him in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, Go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned.
My daughter. This Moabite woman, Naomi, is calling her daughter. Get that, people. Get that. She now considered her daughter, because Ruth had made that profession to her. I'm going to accept your gods. I'm going to accept your country. And Ruth becomes a daughter to her. She lost two sons, but she gained a daughter. And of course, this was carried on tradition in marriage. Was say when a husband and wife get married, and the mother of the husband says, "I haven't lost a son. I've gained a daughter." That comes from this tradition. Even though the son, the daughter will go away, but she says, I haven't lost a son. I've gained a daughter. That's what happens in a marriage.
In the field after the reapers, and her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech. Now, let's just look at this and say, oh, I think Ruth was, starting to fall in love with Boaz, and oh, it was such a wonderful thing. No, it was called, they came there, and they had no way to provide for themselves, and Ruth says, oh, do you have any relatives in this town? Oh, Boaz is his name? Okay, where's his field? Oh, that way. All right, hopefully I can go and we can get some food so we can survive.
Yeah. God was using circumstances to lead him to Boaz. She just happened to fall in the same field that he was. Just happened chance.
She isn't going and saying, "Oh boy, he sure is. He's cute. Boy, I hope he's cute. I wonder if I can get a date." No, she's saying it's a very practical thing, you see. Coming into the country there, and she's saying, "Okay, I just left my home here. I have no husband to provide for me. What am I going to do?" Well, you have a relative, Naomi? His name's Boaz. Okay, let me go and harvest in his field. There.
Yeah. So what's wrong with that? What's that do with the race? I mean, this guy is so warped in his brain, you can't even figure out where he's coming from. What's the essential issue? Ruth accepted the God of Israel. He won't talk about that. This is a man filled with hate, people. This is a man so filled with hate that has warped his mind. He can't even read English anymore, if he ever could read English.
4. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, The Lord be with you. And they answered him, The Lord bless thee. Then said Boaz unto his servant that was set over the reapers, Whose damsel is this? Get back to that in a minute. And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, It is the Moabitish damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. And she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. So she came and hath continued even from the morning until now, that she tarried a little in the house. Then said Boaz unto Ruth, Hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fast by my maidens.
So what? Yeah, the women who were doing the fields for him.
Get back to that in a minute. Let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them. That have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee? And when thou art athirst, go unto the vessels and drink of that which the young men have drawn. Then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said unto him, Why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger? And Boaz answered and said unto her, It hath fully been showed me all that thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law since the death of thine husband, and how thou hast left thy father and thy mother and the land of thy nativity, and art come unto a people which thou knewest not heretofore. The Lord recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust.
See? Boaz had no problem in the race. He said, Welcome. You've chosen to come under the God of Israel, God protection of the gods of Israel's wings. He had no problem, one problem with her race. You say, well, you're Moabite, get out of here. Go back to your own land. See, according to Bryan, Boaz just said, wait a second, don't you understand God has made the habitations? Therefore, you're out of your habitation here. What are you doing in Israel? Get out of here and go back to your own land. That's what Boaz, if Bryan's view was correct, that's what Boaz would have said. He didn't say that. He says, welcome. Welcome. You've chosen to come under the land of Israel. Welcome.
Then she said, Let me find favor in thy sight, my Lord, for that thou hast comforted me, and for that thou hast spoken friendly unto thine handmaid, though I be not like unto one of thine handmaids.
Yeah, different ways.
And Boaz said unto her, At meal time come thou hither, and eat of the bread, and dip thy morsel in the vinegar. And she sat beside the reapers, and he reached her parched corn, and she did eat, and was sufficed and left. Okay? Again, Ruth was a fine woman. Ruth was a godly woman. There's no questioning that.
And Boaz welcomed her into Israel. He didn't say, what are you doing here? You're a Moabite. Get out of here. He welcomed her into Israel. He said, you made the right choice.
I'm not trying to destroy her character. But what I'm trying to say is, this isn't like interracial marriage of today. All right? And
how is it not? Yeah, let me explain one word how it's not like interracial marriage today. The fact of the matter is, if anything would have happened, Boaz would say, what are you doing here, you Moabite? Get out of here. Yeah, this is not your land. Instead, he said, well, welcome. He said, welcome. I heard what you've done. You've chosen the land of Israel. You're welcome under the protection of the God of Israel. He didn't want to make one issue of her race.
What does he do? Look there at where are we at here? Verse 8. Then said Boaz unto Ruth, Hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fast by my maidens. What is a maiden in the scripture? A maiden is a servant girl. Modern day English, a slave.
Not me. Not slaves. These women weren't slaves, you nut. You crazy person. These were maidens. They're working for Boaz. They weren't his slaves. What a nut.
Boaz tells this woman who's of, technically somewhat Hamitic descent. You have Lot going into Sodom and Gomorrah, which was...
Yeah, so she was half Shemite at least. Moabites.
The descendants of Ham went there, and he takes a wife, and then his one daughter, basically gets him drunk and, sleeps with him in the cave there after they leave Sodom and Gomorrah, after they flee, and then their child becomes the ancestor of the Moabites. So,
Yeah, two daughters do it. It happened twice.
I don't know what you would call that, 3/4 Jewish and 1/4 Hamite or whatever, because
He don't know. He doesn't even know. So because she's 1/4 Hamite, she's a Hamite. I'd say at least if the mother was a Hamite, it'd be 50-50. But she's probably the Moabites at least 50% Shemites.
mother and father, mother, whatever the woman's name, Lot's wife.
Take a DNA test, Brian. We'll find out who you really are. I'm a German.
Lot, Jew, Hamite, and then they have one that's, part Hamite, part Jewish, and then, she is with her father, and so you have the Moabites. But he doesn't say to her, hey.
Well, I guess you would if she's half. The daughter is half, 50% Shemite and 50% Hamite. That would be correct, and because she's mating with someone who's 100% Shemite. Yeah, the Moabites would be. I'm saying 50-50. He's right. That the Moabites are only about 25% Hamite. So they're not more Shemite than they are Hamite.
I'm going to give you a real nice, respectable place. Hey, over there with my...
The problem with Moabites and the Amorites was their spirituality. That's why God dealt with them. That's what Malachi talks about. Esau. That was their problem. Was the fact of them rejecting the God of Israel.
My female slaves, my maidens, go over there and work with them. And she does.
They're not slaves. Nowhere does it say they're slaves. They're servants. They work, but they have freedom to move around. They're not slaves.
She doesn't say, well, the nerve. I was interested in you, but now, buddy, you just pushed me a little bit too.
What's that to do with this? She's a humble woman. She's thankful that she can get to work.
No. Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, thank
you.
See,
now he starts with an assumption that maiden means slave. And then he starts developing that, like, oh, she was not offended that they called her a slave. And somehow that's tied in. You're talking about Jewish women being slaves, maidens. Okay? Now, one of the things that happened, if people got in debt, they would be put into slavery. And they were supposed to be released. They're supposed to be relieved. They'd be released every 7 years. But that was like involuntary servitude. That was a different type of different slavery. But the fact is that this, see, he's trying to make it now a slavery issue. And it's this woman's humble. Oh, yeah, I'll become your slave. She was becoming a worker. That's where she could come and go. She went back to her mother-in-law. She didn't have to stay there. Slavery, the modern slavery that we had, you can't come and go where you felt like it. Basically, they control your movements.
Thank you so much. Why have I found grace in thy sight? She was a good woman. Definitely a good woman. And again, what's the purpose of the book of Ruth? Well, it's to show some typology there for the future when Jesus Christ is symbolically marrying a Gentile bride, the bride of Christ.
Now, why would something that God hates, interracial marriage, be used as a symbol of marriage? When you're marrying the Gentile bride, why would you use that as a symbol? Something he hates. Suppose he hates. If that was something he hates, he said, well, it's interracial, but he's using a Gentile woman, a Gentile to be brought into the church is considered Gentile.
All right. Well, then it's okay for interracial marriage. People are crazy.
Oh, people are crazy. No, you're crazy. People aren't crazy. People understand what you're saying is nonsense. You're going all around and talking about stuff because you can't get to the real issue. Was she a saved person or not? That's the only issue. And that's why he's going all around circles, people. Oh, the maidens, and she's the humble. What does that do with the interracial? See, this is all smoke and mirrors.
People are crazy in the head.
This one actually got more down thumbs than up thumbs. 62 verse 42, which is good. These people see through this idiocy.
Jesus does things in type. He's not saying, oh, because I'm doing this in type, then you can do it.
Well, show me a type where there's a sin involved, and then it's okay. If interracial marriage was a sin, he wouldn't be using it as a type for that most important issue in history, is the church and Christ being together, the bride of Christ being the church. So show me another type where sin is involved, and then it becomes a type. He doesn't use a sinful act as a type.
But they're physically and whatever else, and it's just fine. Contradicting multiple scriptures.
It's not contradiction of multiple scriptures. He hasn't shown one scripture which says race is an issue. He doesn't show one scripture on that. Boaz is actually showing the opposite. He says, welcome.
Again, why did God drop Elimelech and his 2 sons? And
they were at fellowship. He killed them, sent them to death. And they went to Abraham's bosom. Unlike the faith works people tell you a lie that an Old Testament saint hadn't have eternal security. When they tell you that, they're liars, people. These things prove that. These are carnal believers out of fellowship who get killed. Just like a Christian will. You stay out of fellowship long enough, God will kill you. There are a lot of Christians who would live a lot longer if they had followed the walk that God had planned out for them. They didn't, and God killed them. And they're with the Lord now.
He says, the Lord has afflicted me. He's against me. Why? But let's continue. Verse 19, chapter 2, verse 19 through 23. And her mother-in-law said unto her, where hast...
God afflicted them because they were out of fellowship. They were not supposed to be out of the land. They didn't trust in the God of Israel to provide for them. So they fled into another land. And that didn't bless them. If you trust in God, you stay where you are. And so they get cursed for that. They get cursed. Naomi ends up a carnal believer, just like Lot, who ends up with nothing. But in the case of Lot, unlike the case of Lot, at least Ruth clings to her. She gets a daughter out of this, which God now uses in order to bless the rest of Israel. This is just like with Joseph getting sold into slavery. This is like Joseph gets sold into slavery, and what is at the end when he gets raised up to the second in charge of Egypt, and he tells his brothers, "You meant it for evil, God meant it for good." That doesn't discount the fact that what they did was wrong, but God just changed that cursing into blessing and used it for His glory. What they did was wrong, to sell their brother into slavery. But God took that. God's plan never gets stymied by man's actions. That's what people understand. God has a plan, and free will is allowed to operate, but God is never worried about free will. He knows exactly what to do. You do this, God does this. The plan is going to be accomplished. No matter what man does, God's plan is going to be accomplished because He knows the end from the beginning. He knows all free will actions, and He allows free will to operate without hindering it. And then His blessings still accomplished. So you can't outfox God. You can't outthink God. And that's the issue with God's omniscience. He understands free will. He understands exactly how it's operating. He allows free will to operate. God isn't scared of free will. And He knows how to handle it. But He allows it to exist because free will must exist in God's plan.
thou glean today, and where wroughtest thou? Blessed be he that did take knowledge of thee. And she showed her mother-in-law with whom she had wrought, and said, The man's name with whom I wrought today is Boaz. And Naomi said unto her daughter-in-law, Blessed be blessed be he of the Lord, who hath not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead. Here's where it gets interesting. Naomi said unto her, The man is near of kin unto us, one of our next kinsmen. And Ruth the Moabitess said, He said unto me also, Thou shalt keep fast by my young men until they have ended all my harvest. And Naomi said unto Ruth her daughter-in-law, It is good, my daughter, that thou go out with his maidens, that they meet thee not in any other field. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of barley harvest and of wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother-in-law. It's good for you to be with his servant girls, his maidens.
Yeah, it's a job. Why wouldn't people want that? They have no job, comes in there, they can be fed. It's good that they'll be protected. To work with Boaz, work with the maids. What's wrong with that?
Not, it's demeaning. You shouldn't be there with those servants and things, you know.
They're working. They're workers. They're not slaves.
Chapter 3, verse 8. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid, and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, Who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth, thine handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. And he said, Blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast showed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou followest not young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not, I will do to thee all that thou requirest, for all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman. And she certainly was. She was a godly woman. And now it is true that I
And a saved woman.
am thy near kinsman, howbeit there is a kinsman nearer than I. Tarry this night, and it shall be in the morning, that if he will perform unto thee the part of a kinsman, well, let him do the kinsman's part. But if he will not do the part of a kinsman to thee, then will I do the part of a kinsman to thee, as the Lord liveth, lie down until the morning. Huh? Do the part of a kinsman? Yeah, you see, if a line of families dies, and there's no male heir there, you say a father dies, I'll say it this way, and no male heir there, and things, and whatever else. Well, the idea there in the Old Testament is that
It's something away from marriage. See? This still smoke and mirrors, people. The fact was that he's recognizing Naomi's right to inheritance, and that he was going to purchase that inheritance. And Ruth, and the issue of marrying Ruth.
there needs to be a man there to carry on the inheritance, a near kinsman, in other words, to carry on there so they can have that inheritance.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to do when God drops the father dead and the two sons dead? There's an inheritance there. There's Elimelech's land, his holdings and things. Who gets it? See?
Yeah. So?
That's what's going on here. Not a loving thing of saying, Boaz saying unto her, I love you, and I've loved you ever since I set eyes on you.
What's this guy babbling about? He certainly did love Ruth. He was happy that she chose him, not the young man. She was obviously a very beautiful woman. So Boaz was very happy. He was an older man. He was very happy to see Ruth was following him and not these younger men. This guy, man. What a nut.
It was love from the first sight. Nothing like that. Oh, you remember our first date? Remember the first time we kissed? And
This guy nut.
No, there's a guy who's in a better position to fulfill the part of a kinsman to you, and I'm going to check with him first, and if he wants you, then okay.
That's his law. Boaz was a righteous man. He had to follow the law. What does that have to do with anything? The law said there was someone closer, and therefore that man had to have first crack at Ruth. That doesn't mean Boaz didn't want her. Just means that Boaz was a righteous man. He was following the law.
If not, I'll take you.
Look at this guy, man.
Do the part of a kinsman. But you can use this to justify modern day interracial marriage. Sure you can. Let's continue here. Chapter 4. I'm going to read the whole chapter here.
Now, what did one thing have to say? He said they had doing interracial marriage. He's trying to make the idea it wasn't romantic. Well, the issue of romantic or not has nothing to do with the ritual of marriage. People plan marriages all the time, and that's how most marriages will set up. You plan marriages. Women were given to husbands or to families based on connections and what they were going to do. And that's normal. But truly, Boaz was happy that Ruth had come to him. But he had to still follow the law and say, I got to deal with this other guy here. And he puts it up to him. He knew that this guy didn't want him. See, he set it up and says, oh, you want to take Ruth? And this guy says, oh, yeah, I'll take Ruth. And then says, by the way, you have got to take all the obligations with Ruth. And he says, wait a second, I can't handle that. So Boaz wanted Ruth. This guy.
Then went Boaz up to the gate and sat him down there. And behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by, and unto whom he said, Ho, such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, Sit ye down here. And they sat down.
Now, see how you witness something? See, it isn't just, like the other guy walked in front of Moses and he took people out and they witnessed it. Oh, this is a marriage because he did this. He did that. He brought the Midianite woman in the sight of Moses and the people of Israel. He didn't bring them up in order to witness anything. He just did it in front of them, brazenly in front of them. That's the difference. These people are brought out as witnesses, and that's what it would take for a marriage. There had to be witnesses to a marriage.
And he said unto the kinsman, Naomi, that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land, whose was our brother Elimelech's. Real estate? And I
what are you talking about?
Thought to advertise thee, saying, buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know, for there is none to redeem it beside thee, and I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it. This nearer kinsman guy to Elimelech, yeah, I'll take it. Verse 5, Then said Boaz, What day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. She's being counted as property? In other words, Boaz is saying, if you want the land, you got to also take Ruth.
And basically sire a child with her, which would not be his inheritance. It would be the inheritance of Naomi's inheritance. That's what he's saying. And so the guy said, "Wait a second, I'm not going to do that." And that was a big issue. If a wife died, if the husband died, the brother had to go into the wife in order for that brother to have an inheritance, to continue inheritance of that group, of that tribe, or that family. And so that meant that basically you're responsible for bringing out that inheritance for that for that line. And the guy said, I'm not going to do that. And that's why you have those issues going on with inheritance, and because it meant giving up something of their inheritance as well.
And raise up seed to her. Not, I want the land because, I'm in love with Ruth.
Doesn't do anything. There were laws that were set up to inheritance. And basically, the guy didn't want to take on that responsibility of setting up a line of inheritance for whatever reason. And if the guy didn't do that, there was in Deuteronomy talks about that they were actually, as he talks about here, but it had been watered down, where they take the shoe off. and they actually spit upon, and talks about Deuteronomy, but not willing to bail up the inheritance of the brother.
He didn't say that. And if this guy would have said, yeah, okay, then Boaz would have said, okay, hey, Ruth, here's your husband, go with.
Yeah, because that's the law. Nothing to do with love. What do you want to do? The law says it's just based on inheritance. But God made sure that Boaz was going to get it.
Tim, Lord be with you. Hopefully you'll have some male heirs.
These guys are total moron. Really, I think he's read the Bible.
And things like that. Verse 6, and the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself. Look at this. Lest I mar mine own inheritance.
Yeah, so that's why people don't do it. They'd be marring their own inheritance. And that's why you had a strict thing there. And they said if you didn't do it, they take off the shoe. And in Deuteronomy, there's an added thing there where they spit on it. So, I mean, but that was serious. But the idea, there was no love there. What do you mean? Boaz truly fell in love with Ruth. He wanted Ruth. And he was intent to get Ruth. And that's why he said, but first I got to take care of this legal problem. It's a legal issue.
Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. Mar his own inheritance? Do you think maybe he was saying, I don't want to marry a Moabite?
No, it wasn't by being a Moabite. That was the issue of marrying, taking on responsibility of a close heir in a family issue, and taking on that. And that was common. I said the idea is that if a husband of a brother died, the brother was the brother was responsible for going to the wife. You see, you had an example in the gospel where Sadducees bring that up. There were 7 brothers. There were 7 brothers and went to one woman. That was about inheritance, and you were responsible for doing that and dealing with bringing up that brother, bringing up that son, which would affect, I guess, your inheritance as well. But you're responsible to go into the other woman, the brother's wife, who had now died, in order for that line to have an heir.
Verse 7, now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing. For to confirm all things, a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor, and this was a testimony in Israel.
They were supposed to spit on him. Let's mention it. So that was just taken off there. Somehow the thing had gotten a little less expressive. So that, but in Deuteronomy, you take the shoe off and you spit on them, guys.
Therefore the kinsman said unto Boaz, buy it for thee. So he drew off his shoe. And Boaz said unto the elders and unto all the people, ye are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's of the hand of Naomi. He bought it? Again, look at the typology of Jesus Christ buying the church, his bride. Very interesting. And it's interesting too because the church is a bondservant. We're bought with a price. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I...
We're not slaves. We're not slaves. So we're servants. We're never called slaves.
Purchased to be my wife. Purchased her? Really? And that's the same thing today as a modern day interracial marriage? To raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place, ye are witnesses this day.
Here's Deuteronomy 25:7, talking about the issue of inheritance. And if the man let's see here, and it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother which is dead, that his name be not put out of Israel. And if the man like not to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate unto the elders, and say, my husband's brother refuses to raise up unto his brother a name in Israel. He will not perform the duty of my husband's brother. Then the elders of the city shall call him and speak unto him, and if he stand to it and say, I like not to take her, then shall his brother's wife come unto him in the presence of the elders, and loose his shoe from off his foot, and spit in his face, and shall answer and say, So shall it be done unto that man that will not build up his brother's house. And his name shall be called in Israel, the house of him that hath his shoe loosed. So they will see, that's Deuteronomy 25. And that's the issue. So that was commonly done, where if the brother died and he left the wife, you were told to go into the wife to have that, so that line would have a son. And a lot of times they wouldn't do it. And so they lessened it in Ruth and said they just took the shoe off. If they spit on it, the woman comes spit on it. And they're Moabite. This guy's bringing slavery in the issue. This guy's bringing slavery in the issue. Well, the issue is interracial marriage.
And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, We are witnesses. The Lord make the woman that is come into thine house like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel. And do thou worthily in Ephratah, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let thy house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which the Lord shall give thee of this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when he went in unto her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bare a son. And the women said unto Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, which hath not left thee this day without a kinsman, that his name may be famous in Israel. And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, and a nourisher of thine old age. For thy daughter-in-law, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons, hath borne him. And Naomi took the child and laid it in her bosom, and became nurse unto it. And the women her neighbors gave it a name, saying, This is a son born to Naomi. And they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now these are the generations of Pharez. Pharez begot Hezron, and Hezron begot Ram, and Ram begot Amminadab, and Amminadab begot Nahshon, and Nahshon begot Salmon, and Salmon begot Boaz, and Boaz begot Obed, and Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David. Okay? It's about inheritance. It's about Ruth being property. And
no, that's how Ruth became Boaz's wife. Not about inheritance. Ruth was legitimate wife of Boaz, and she bore a son that was in the line of David, which eventually became the line of David and became the line of Christ. Not the issue of inheritance. What a lunatic.
Boaz saying, if I want Elimelech's land, I'm going to have to buy the land from Naomi and also raise up seed to the wife of the dead.
Yeah, that's how Boaz was eventually a kinsman redeemer. It's a kinsman redeemer issue. But that doesn't mean that Boaz didn't love Ruth, no less than Christ loves his church. Why would that be? Why does one have to do with the other? Boaz loved Ruth.
And that's interracial marriage of today.
Interracial marriage today is involved in one thing. So he didn't mention, he keeps avoiding the issue that Ruth was a believer. So, and he brings up, I never saw a guy more distorted thinking, this guy. The issue of inheritance was how Ruth was allowed to come in to the line, brought into the line of Christ to marry Boaz, the right to marry Boaz. Boaz would have married her straight out, but he had an issue with the inheritance he had to deal with. But this gave him a right to marry Ruth, to take Ruth as his wife, because of the law of inheritance. And that's what he did. There's no anywhere to say that he wouldn't have taken her anyway. He didn't take her anyway. It just says this is how he did it. This is the way he did it. Through this law of inheritance, he first had to go and make sure that this other guy didn't want Ruth himself in order to do the right thing. This guy the guy who refused Ruth did the wrong thing. According to Deuteronomy 25, he did the wrong thing. He wouldn't take Ruth because of his own selfishness, because he didn't want his own inheritance marred, affect his own children.
A black man and a white woman or whatever.
Well, she wasn't even, she's 1/4, according to Bryan, 1/4 Hamite, 2/3 Shemite. He goes black woman, white woman, that man, So what's the racial mix?
Getting together and getting married and whatever.
Yeah, if they're believers, they can get married. Doesn't matter what their race is.
How can you
Ooh,
use this to justify that?
use that because Ruth was a believer. The verse you wouldn't read, Ruth 1:16. Ruth says, "Your God will be my God." The essential point, and he says, well, there's different things here. There are maids and they're slaves, and Ruth's a slave, and blah, blah, blah. All that nonsense is garbage. The issue is, what was the difference in Ruth and the Moabite women who God said, you have to kill and stuff? Why? They were idol worshippers. They were not believers. Ruth was a believer. She was allowed to come in, just like Rahab was. The three women in the genealogy of Jesus Christ, they were all believers. And so we hear a note from Hoffman on Ruth, bottom of Ruth here. Ruth is a type of the Gentile bride of Christ. Ruth's first husband died, which pictures the death of the flesh of the born-again believer. Romans 7:1-4. Her second marriage with Boaz is more binding than the first, Deuteronomy 24:1-4, which pictures the eternal security of the born-again believer. Eternal security he denies, by the way. 1 Corinthians 15:2, if you keep in memory. So he's making eternal security unconditional, he's making it conditional. So according to Bryan, his reading of 1 Corinthians 15, he thinks that's part of eternal salvation. But that would mean you have to keep it in memory. So you couldn't go into apostasy and forget you were ever saved, as it says in 2 Peter 1:9. So the issue of race, he conveniently ignores. And let me see here. Go to Matthew. I don't know if Hoffman mentions it or. Let's see. It says here in Hoffman, the Messianic line is not a godly line of people. It contains all ranges of sinners, including without restriction a few Gentile women. Genesis 38:6, Ruth 1-4, 2 Samuel 11:3, Ephesians 2:12. So you've got three Gentile women in the line of Jesus Christ. And why are they in there? They're saved. They're saved Gentile women. So we'll stop here and deal again. This is more Bryan Denlinger's insanity. Shows he can't read, he can't think, he's incapable of understanding truth. The issue of in interracial marriage was always spiritual. Always spiritual. Anyone says, well, they were maidens. And the issue is maidens. They were obviously slaves. See, if you're into Calvinism, you'll eventually go to slavery. Ironically, so it's like, because you have to give free will. So eventually, that's why all the modern versions put, instead of servant, they put slaves. That's what he is. He's an implicit Calvinist. He would deny, deny Calvinism. He's denying eternal security. He made it conditional security. You got to keep in memory. He's denied unlimited atonement. He believes that Jesus Christ only died for the elect who were saved. When in fact, Jesus Christ in 2 Peter 2:1 says Jesus Christ died for, and Hebrews 2:9 says, but he died to taste death for all men, and he died for those who don't believe in him, teaching false doctrines. So now he's going to do this whole thing. He's got to wiggle around the central issue. The central issue of salvation in marriage is exactly what it says in 1 Corinthians 7. I believe in verse 38. The only one point to do is, well, the only thing you can do let's see. 738. So then here, let's see. Okay, 39, excuse me. The wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth. But if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married. Liberty, see? Even Luckman says this, people. Luckman's one of the biggest, anti-interracial marriage guys there is. But he admits that. In his, if you ever work my reference Bible, look at Acts, I believe it's in Acts 16. Here's a note there. It's, well, your testimony we found. Your testimony. No. Timothy. He's all about it. But the point is, he has to admit that there's given liberty. And that's dispensation. But it exists in the Old Testament too. This idea, of racial restriction. The issue was always spiritual. Always. She is at liberty to be married to whom she will. Oh, wait a minute. She can't marry different ways. No, it's be liberty to marry who she will. What's the one proviso? The one thing that says you have to do this, though. Okay, one restriction. Only in the Lord. So she's a widow. Husband dies. And you can marry whoever you want after that. But you have to be saved. What if he's a black man? Is he saved? Yeah, okay, marry him. What if he's a Chinese man? I'm a white woman. Can you marry him? Yeah. Is he saved? Yeah. What if he's a white man? He's not saved. Don't marry him. Don't marry him. Okay? It's one thing. I love him. Don't marry him. See, that's the problem. That's the problem. He wants to bring up the love issue. That's the problem. They get to the love issue and they fall in love with unbelievers. And the one thing is, don't marry an unbeliever. God says one thing. But they find unbelievers to fall in love with. And then they have problems. Then they really get problems. And they wonder why everything doesn't work out for them. But if you marry an unbeliever, it doesn't matter what race they are. You'll be in harmony with one another. It doesn't matter. I'd always add things differently. If you marry a foreign woman, she might be still saved, but she's going to have cultural issues. So it's difficult there. But that's not forbidden by God. It just says, hey, be practical and say a little difficulty things, and most people aren't going to do that. I mean, American trials will always bringing back Japanese women. They had married. That was common. He talks about, Bryan was talking about the laws against interracial marriage. You were allowed to marry Japanese women. They go through a lot of red tape and stuff, but you can marry them, bring them home, bring them back to their states. So we'll stop here. And the same thing in Korea. You can marry Korean women. So that wasn't forbidden. We'll stop here. Deal with it again. This is Bryan trying to cover himself, defend his nonsense by interracial marriage. It's foolishness. He can't defend it. He avoided the verse, the key verse, 116, Ruth 116. There are 3 lines and 3 Gentile women in line genealogy. The genealogy of Jesus Christ. And one's a prostitute. So, saved though. She got part of Israel. She came to tribe of Israel and 4 children. You got in the line of Jesus Christ. But these guys, they can make an issue of not an issue. But Bryan doesn't even know what race he is. Bryan doesn't know which race. He's a liar. So, I mean, the idea, we're mixed. Right? The races are all mixed now. There's no person can say that's a pure black and that's a pure white and that's a pure Jew. You can't say that. You're mixed. Everyone's mixed. Got something in them. And we just say there's prominence. We can look at them and say, well, that person look, Oriental, more white and more black. They look that way, but it doesn't mean there's not racial mixture in there. We all have it. So that's nonsense. And he said, well, see, you married a maiden, and this is what were they? They were slaves. He guy makes this stuff up out of the top of his head. And of course, Deuteronomy 25 says the real thing was the evidence was you were responsible to keep a name alive in Israel, and so the sons, the brothers would go into the wife, and there was an aspect of affecting their own inheritance in that. But if they didn't do it, they were considered to get a name, he who loosed his shoe or something, like an Indian thing. They loosed his shoe. The wife would come and spit in his face and stuff. The sister-in-law. So, but the issue again is Ruth was that she was allowed to come in to Israel and be part of Israel because she was a believer, and Boaz welcomed her as a believer, and that was the issue. And so it's for different issues of marriage ceremonies and traditions. That has nothing to do with the fact of it's like today. We're not forbidden to marry interracial. So you want to make an issue of the bounds of habitations. Well, in the United States, we have all kinds of people in the bounds of our habitation. So what's the idea? The idea is somehow, well, as long as you stay in the bounds of your habitation. Yeah, she went out of the bounds of habitation. She left Israel. No one questions that. He makes a big deal about that. Oh, yeah, no one questions that. Well, so what? God took a cursing and made it a blessing for her. God does that. God takes man's failures and would turn them into a blessing. That's what happened with Naomi. Ruth became better than her 7 sons, and she became known as that. But she went through a carnal condition. She lost everything. But God gave her Ruth, and as a blessing, and Ruth became a blessing and part of the messianic line, and as a Moabite. So we'll stop here and put this up. Long video. But dealing with this issue, you got to deal with these nutcases. And people say, "What do we deal with Bryan for?" Because he's a nut. Deal with this nut. And people say, "Hey, you see what he just said like this?" So I'll put him on. But the point is, when you see a guy so blatantly lie, you give the alternative the truth, and you can see what the truth is. And that's why you read the Old Testament. Read the Old Testament. Read Deuteronomy. You can take it with Deuteronomy 25 and say what the law in heavens was. He's too lazy. He's too biblically ignorant of these things. And he wants to make the idea of a maiden. I'm going to go look up the condition of maiden. Maiden doesn't mean slave. They're workers. They're workers who are unmarried. They were maidens. They're unmarried. That's what the issue of maiden is, being unmarried, not being a slave. So we'll stop here. Put this up. Amen. Thank you.